GNT show is intended for mature audiences. Parental discretion is advised. These are the voyages of the GNT show. Our continuing mission to explore Star Trek storytelling, to seek out new worlds and interesting characters, to bold we got where no show has gone before. Live long and prosper, bitches.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another GNT Show supplemental log. I'm Mike, and joining me today is my lovely co-host, Terry.
Good evening.
And joining us is John Broughton. And
John Broughton.
Broughton. And we are going to be talking about Starship Farragut and their Kickstarter for their latest episode, Homecoming, and also another project you guys have on the back burner that's going to be coming out soon. Is that correct?
That's right.
I'm excited.
I am excited about this. And for anybody who's listening to this live, we are tweeting this live as well. Starship Farragut Farragut Films have about 42 hours left in their Kickstarter campaign for Starship Farragut Homecoming, and but the good news is they have less than $500 to go. So they're currently sitting at about $14,563 of a $15,000 goal. So hopefully by the end of the show, we can get them, if not close, we can get them over the amount, which would be really fun. So welcome to the show, John. Good to see you again, or I should say welcome back. It's been a while.
Yeah, it has. It's been, I guess, over a year since the last time we worked with you guys or were on your show when we were doing the Kickstarter campaign for Homecoming, and that was a very good show with you guys, and we're glad to be back.
Right on.
We are. I'm actually quite excited because although when I first read this, I got a little nervous, as you can imagine, when I found out that this was supposedly the last episode of Starship Farragut.
I know.
But we both Mike and I kind of went, oh my gosh, really? Are they really? I wonder if, that same old rumor mill that comes up with any other thing. We thought, oh gee, I wonder if CBS said something. I wonder if something's going wrong. But then we watched.
We kept reading.
We kept reading and found out that really what you're doing, it seems so natural now, is that you're kind of bringing the television portion of it, or the TOS era portion of Starship Farragut to a close, and then you're going to jump everything forward.
That's right.
You said 10 or so years?
Mm-hmm. There's not a specific date associated with exactly when we transition or move forward. I've been basically saying, 7 to 10 years forward, roughly whatever the time frame is from classic Trek to the movie era, the Wrath of Khan,
era
time period. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So you're skipping the motion picture.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Don't blame me for that one.
I can understand that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not to say I don't love the motion picture, I do, but I can tell you, I wouldn't look good in those uniforms.
Yeah, because the visual aesthetic isn't all that great compared to Wrath of Khan. I mean, everything just looked so much better. The colors were back and a little more vibrant. I mean, it was a lot better overall. And yeah, so that when I saw that, I have to admit I was just so happy because no one else has.
No one.
We have asked, on our show before, why aren't there any other fan productions outside of the Kirk's, the original series era? And with Star Trek, there's so much. And although we wanted to see more of, say, TNG or DS9 type of productions coming about, we just completely missed one of the more obvious ones, which is the movie era. And seeing that's exactly what you're doing, I have to admit, I was so excited, so very happy. Congratulations for doing something so bold.
Thank you. Well, the idea came about, I would say, back very early on, and it was just a notion of being able to do something as epic and as featuresque or feature film type of episode, such as what we saw on Star Trek 2 and 3 and so forth. And but back in, I would say, 2012 was when I really started to nurture the idea, get the whole infrastructure in place, start doing some concepts for costumes, and getting everything starting to coalesce to the Farragut Forward project. And we've got a very detailed art director, Michael Coward, and he's just a guy he's the most meticulous guy who stresses over all the finite details, and including the star date and the timeline and the year. To me, they're just numbers, but he's very particular, and we've got the right guy who has been working on getting some of the blueprints and the swatches that dye the fabric to the monster maroon or those nice burgundy jackets. And we're
how fun. Seriously, that's really fun. Well, kind of going back to really what we're talking about today, though, and what we really want to focus on too is the quote unquote that final episode called Homecoming. And I noticed just from some of the shots that you've already finished quite a bit of this, correct?
We have. I would say 50% or more has been completed, including a rare cameo done by Stan Lee out in California.
Well, oh my God!
Yes.
Mike, it's okay. Here's a towel.
Thank you. How did you? Sorry,
how? We have
how
to ask
did
how.
you do this?
I'm not at liberty to say, but you wouldn't believe me even if I told you the story. It's that crazy. No.
Those are the best kind.
Wow.
Well, one day when you are able to tell that story, when I have you tied up, and I'll force it out of you.
There's always Vegas.
Yeah, there is.
Right.
There's always Vegas.
There's always Vegas.
But that is so exciting and very, very fun. And what a wonderful, I almost want to say crossover, what a wonderful cameo for a Star Trek production. I just think that is a hoot and a half. And, truly what a great sport of him to participate like that.
Yeah, and speaking of crossovers, as it relates to Stan, we're the Homecoming story will feature a crossover between our spin-off and sister production Trek Isolation, and there's some credible people associated with that project. Eric the Smoke Moran, who's on it, Dave Turner, Ivy Doom Kitty. These are people that are very well noted in the cosplay arena. And we have Michael Rookers, who was in Guardians of the Galaxy. He will be in the Trek Isolation film series.
Nice.
As well as there's a girl from Arrow.
Fantastic.
From the TV show Arrow. So there's some mainstream celebrities that are being brought on as well, and we'll be doing a crossover as part of this last episode for us. So you'll get to see that as well.
Well, the one thing, and I'm just going to be a nerd for a moment. While Mike is going kind of crazy over the Stan Lee thing, I have to say the antenna on my head went up when I saw a picture of you standing in front of a very unique and actually kind of at least here in the Western United States, not very well known Frank Lloyd Wright house.
Yes.
And building. And I thought to myself, what a very cool building to be able to film at. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got access to the Pope Leahy House in Alexandria?
Absolutely. Two people that have been involved in our production, the Duff brothers, Pat and Phil Duff. They're identical twin brothers too, by the way. And they go to the Star Trek conventions dressed up as Data and Lore. So it's quite a sight, but they've been fans of not only our production but our many other Star Trek productions, including Starship Exeter, and they have, which was the inspiration for us, by the way. They used to work. They used to work at the Pope Leahy House, and so they were very knowledgeable, and they had insight to the home, and they put us in touch with the right people. and were even willing to invest to cover the expenses associated with renting it for a period of 4 or 5 days. And they were adamant that we had to film there. We had access to one home gratis, but it was very contemporary, and we wanted something, that didn't look like someone's own home.
Right.
And for Star Trek, it was a Frank Lloyd Wright home, which was, even today's standards, something built in the 30s, is still innovative. Yeah. The design and the just the advances in home construction are still just outstanding today. They were like, we had to use the house, and
it's such a spectacular site, and and one that, again, I noticed right off the bat, just because I'm a Frank Lloyd Wright kind of a geek. I mean, I even have.
I am as well.
Oh God.
I studied him in college.
I love him, and there's courthouses in Northern California that I used to just, the whole city complex in Ross, California, I used to just walk around and gawk at all the time. So for me, it was a unique thing to say, oh my gosh, that is a uniquely Frank Lloyd Wright house. And it still doesn't detract from the stories that can take place there, because of the styling of the home. I think fits in exactly with not just that kind of that end of that era 60s mentality, so to speak, but also, the idea that it's almost a little bit alien. So well done there. I think.
Yeah, that really worked out. That was a blessing. And thanks to the Duff brothers. Yes.
So now go ahead, Mike.
Oh, I just wanted to say, I did not know that the house was Frank Lloyd Wright's. I mean, I'm familiar with the name. I've seen some of his work, and all of it always looks so futuristic, even by today's standards. But when I first saw the photo of the house, of you in front of the house, I thought, wow, that is a great building. I didn't know what it was I was looking at, but I thought that was a great building. And now that I have a little bit more of the backstory, it's even cooler.
So I have to say, is this Mom's house?
This is the house that Captain Carter grew up, his childhood, before he went to the academy on planet Chloris 3.
I love it. What a great, and that's what I said is we're going to get to the hard part now, which is we're going to ask some questions we know that you probably won't want to give spoilers away for, so feel free to tell us to shut up. But it's my understanding from the Kickstarter campaign documentation that it seems like this episode is highly inspired by Star Trek: The Next Generation's family episode.
It was.
So you're bringing everybody home, huh?
Well, the ship and the captain, for that matter, yes.
Okay.
The last 3 films that we've done, The Price of Anything, Conspiracy of Innocence, and The Crossing, there's a lot of death, there's a lot of ship damage, there's a lot of emotional drama, and after we filmed this episode, Paul Sieber, who wrote The Crossing episode, he immediately, on the way back home from filming The Crossing, he started to write the story. He was like brainstorming, and he was calling me, and we kind of collaborated on some ideas, and he suggested that Captain Carter needed to decompress and go back home. And the analogy was that of from Next Generation, sorry, I was getting an echo. The analogy was that, like the TNG family episode, that as Picard, after all the things happened with Locutus and the Borg, that he needed to go home. And we kind of felt the same way. And initially, we weren't even really trying to do another film. I think I was reserved to kind of walk away after we did The Crossing. And I had told Paul that, because he was very committed to writing the script, I said, well, don't, I'm not committed to doing this, nothing is set in stone, nothing is promised. He wrote the script, I read it, and I just we have to do this. I felt it was a good story to tell, a very dramatic one about people, and I think I like the episodes that we've done thus far, like The Price of Anything, the ones that deal with the universal human stories.
Yes.
And this is one of those. So, yeah, there was a lot of inspiration, Terry, to the TNG family episode.
Well, it was such a nice actual kind of a beginning and also a departure for Star Trek: The Next Generation to really do an off the ship, character study of all of these wonderful characters that you grew to love, but you really didn't know a lot about. And all of a sudden we get so much wonderful background on Picard that it'll be nice to see that treatment for the Farragut crew, especially the captain. So, nice way to end it off, and a great kick and a great bouncing board to the next.
Exactly, I saw it as an opportunity, really, to set the stage for things that we want to do long term with Farragut forward, and you'll get to see at the end of the episode what happens to the Farragut, because during the story, the Farragut is going through dry dock and going through some upgrades and fixes and such. So you get to find out what exactly happens to the ship. So I saw it as a really good opportunity to just for Farragut forward as well. So
neat. Well, that's really, really cool. What other things about, say, some of the other characters of the Farragut crew can we look forward to? We'll talk about some of the other guest stars that you have as well. But what other things can we look forward to with regards to other members of the crew?
Well, Smithfield, who's the engineer, he is having to deal with someone new coming aboard and who's also a female engineer who comes aboard and is trying to change everything. And from Smithfield's point of view, this is her ship. It's not Captain Carter's. This is Smithfield's ship. So to have someone new, an outsider, come in and start making changes, you can imagine the kind of conflict and drama that would be associated with that. But at the end, there is a good happy ending with it. It is not confrontational, if you will.
Excellent.
So Smithfield and First Officer Foster, played by Frank Hernandez, there's some stuff going on there, and as well as with the Chief of Security Weston, you get to see some nice things happen with the three of those characters.
Excellent. Let's touch a little bit on some of the wonderful guest stars that you have slated, and probably already, seeing as though I've already got screen caps, it means that they've already been around. Yeah. For those of us who may not be very well familiar with Mr. Dick Dizelle, give us a little bit of a background as to why this is such a fun cameo and appearance for him.
Sure, and I didn't grow up in Washington, D.C., so I was not familiar with Dick either, but during the 70s, for long 70s through the 80s, for almost a 20-year period or so, he played a character called Captain 20, and he was a character on WDCA 20 on the local Washington D.C. Station, and he did
It's all right. Mike, you may want to tell the people in the chat. I'm going to interrupt real quick and just tell everybody in the chat room, if you are getting our little kind of warning every 5 minutes or so, you may want to try a different media player. We do have a media player that plays our adult warning. Typically our podcast is, how shall we say,
for mature audience.
Yeah, we're for mature audiences.
Yeah.
And we had a warning that when you first listen to it that tells people if you're not an adult, you may not want your kids listening to this. So it is a warning, and so if you're getting it over and over and over again, you might want to just try a different media player.
Yeah, the web player is up at the top, and then below it are several icons for the different players. One of them is bound to work ideally for your machine and your internet connection. So if one doesn't work, please try one of the others.
Yep. So we got QuickTime Real Player and Windows and Winamp as well. Awesome. Sorry, John.
No. So Dick Dizelle, he was big as Captain 20, a character geared towards kids, and coincidentally, this character was made to look like a Vulcan, or at least Dick to make him. First, he was some sort of other. I don't know if he was an astronaut or what other character, but Dick changed him to be more like an alien, and he put Vulcan ears on. He had eyebrows that kind of went up.
Right.
And he did the Vulcan salute. That was his thing. So Star Trek had a big influence on the Captain 20 character that he did for many years. And now he's actually in Star Trek. And
That's so great.
Yeah.
Right
So,
on.
but it was a pleasure and an honor working with him. He was very professional. We really lucked out on getting his involvement, and he plays now a ghoulish character named Count Gordeval, and he does I guess like Elvira. He's a male version of Elvira.
Oh, how fun! So he does like the creature feature.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great.
Gives commentary and does goofy, comedic things with people. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That had to have been, just a hoot and a half. What other guest stars do you want to talk about, or other points about the homecoming do you want us to not miss? Love interests.
Yes, there's definitely in this a love interest for Captain Carter. There is an actress named Christina Victor, who based out of New York City, who has done substantial theater work, and this is her first film debut. But she plays the love interest for Captain Carter. We tried to add some suspense in the episode, so you don't really know if she's a good. You don't know if she's a good or bad person in the beginning. We leave some mystique to what's going on in terms of her character.
Yep.
And she's I don't want to reveal too much, but
I don't blame you.
Very good chemistry and love interest for the captain. Right. And then we also have Sherry Santana, who plays Captain Carter's mother, and she very much favors my own mother, so that worked out really well. And more than just her physical appearance, her mannerisms, her personality was very much in lockstep of my own mother. So there was times where she was actually getting on my nerves. So very good chemistry there as well.
That's wonderful. And again, to be able to film a lot of those sequences at the Frank Lloyd Wright House must have just been a kick and a half.
Yeah, it was very surreal to go from studying, and I've actually been to the Guggenheim Museum up in New York City, which is also based on his work, and but to be able to work in a Frank Lloyd Wright home, it was very cool, and the thought would never have crossed my mind to even think of that, and not knowing that there was even one local within the Washington, D.C. area.
Let's seeing as though now we still have 42 hours left in your Kickstarter for Starship Farragut Homecoming, and just under $400, $350 or so, left in your campaign. In the hopes, and I'm very confident that you're going to reach your goal. So we all know that the last 48 hours of a Kickstarter campaign can be the most crucial. Not only can you go over your requested amount, but this is also the time when you can really push for and hope to get some of your stretch goals. If you are able to get some of your stretch goals addressed, what can people hope to see if you're able to get an additional $5,000?
Well, we are already moving forward. We're already in pre-production of Farragut Forward, and all the expenses associated with that new endeavor have been on the burden of myself, Michael Cowart, Paul Sieber, essentially three people. Mm-hmm. And we've already amassed quite a bit of stuff. We have we have all the lumber, we have all the paint, we have all the materials to build the sets needed for the pilot episode, which Michael Jan Friedman, a very prolific Star Trek and sci-fi and comic book.
We know him well.
Okay, he wrote our pilot, and so we're moving forward, and we're on a very ambitious fast track to start filming this summer. So the funds that any extra funds made outside the $15K will go directly towards that, and we're already committed to doing the pilot, and so it would help take off some of the burden. What that means for backers is that it would, the value of that production, the pilot, they would get to see it in the improved film.
That's really, really cool. And it's nice to see that you guys already fully intend to move forward with it. And so any gravy, so to speak, for the homecoming would end up going towards Farragut Forward. So that's great. Again, for any of our listeners who may catch this either live for the however long we get to speak with John, we're also going to have this don't you think, pretty well quickly edited and put up for listening.
It'll be out very soon.
Very, very soon after we finish here. Mike is amazing. He's amazing.
I don't know about that. But...
if you're listening, there's still time. Go pledge. You can find it under Farragut Films, under Starship Farragut, Homecoming. And right now, again, they're at 14,663 with 42 hours to go.
Terry, this feels like a Jerry Lewis telethon.
Oh, hey.
And the chat room the chat room is posting a lot of memes. So thank you for that. All of them are saying roughly. I need about 350.
I need about 350. It is true. That is so funny. I need about 350. And I love that meme. You have no idea how much I love that meme. That's hilarious. So again. I'm just very excited for you guys. I'm thrilled to find out that Michael has written for you guys.
That's fantastic.
We're big. We here at the G&T Show, we're big fans of all of the novelists and all of the big time. We talk to the authors all the time, and I believe that Michael is one we have yet. Yeah, Michael is one we have yet to speak to. So now we have another thing we can, we can harp on him. There you go, Mike. Go for it.
I will stalk him.
Good. Because he's always, I believe he's usually somebody who appears at Shore Leave.
Yeah.
With the big gang over there. And we haven't been able to cover Shore Leave for the past couple of years because it has conflicted with the Las Vegas convention. That changes in 2016. I'm very excited. So, but good for you guys and wonderful news. Our listeners, Michael Jan Friedman, wonderful novelist and Star Trek writer, short stories as well. And
he's written an episode of Voyager as well.
Very cool. So let's talk a little bit about history of the unofficial productions, because Farragut is one of the very few that's been around for a long time. And by long time, I mean you guys were up and running and doing films when I kind of rekindled my love for Star Trek back in 2007. How long have you guys been doing Farragut?
10 years.
Okay.
We filmed our first footage in October of 2005.
Okay. And I remember, I think I met you and a couple of wonderful people from your production with some of your DVDs that you were giving, that you were trading for donations, I should say. You weren't selling them.
Right.
You weren't selling them, but the donation was very fun. And that's really when I got to know about your productions and actually helped you, along with James Cawley's production, made me realize, wow, people have been doing some really fun stuff in the video realm where I was just doing fan fiction and things. So I have to ask, what made you think, okay, I really need to do this? This is something that helps fill my soul. How and why did you start doing Star Trek?
Well, I got out of the Navy in 1995, and I met a gentleman named Mike Bednar, and he got me into making. He taught me, trained me just like kung fu. I was young grasshopper. He taught me how to make props, and from that, just the collection of props then became costumes, and just going for the most accurate and authentic and what they used in the show. And I accumulated quite a bit of this stuff. And when back in 2004, I saw online Starship Exeter, and it was a different ship captain, different crew, different. And I said, we got.
Yeah.
I was like, that was my inspiration. It was like, stop the presses. We need to be doing this, and we meant family and friends. So I was pulling Mike Bednar. I was pulling my dad, helping to build sets. I was like, I knew nothing about filmmaking or cameras, and I just did research. I invested. I took $10K at the time out of my 401K and bought all the camera equipment and light and audio equipment, and
Wow.
everything kind of catapulted off from that, and just bringing in family and friends, and kind of, I would say, almost bending their arms. I mean, at first, Mike Bednar wasn't like, what is this? He didn't get it. And it wasn't until we made our series trailer, after he saw the footage in October 2005, he's like, you know what, this is pretty cool. And he became quickly invested. But others, they kind of gradually, it was interesting to see some people were like immediately drawn into doing this, and others, it was a progression, an evolution of kind of getting them to kind of come full circle in involvement. But that was the inspiration, seeing Exeter.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that makes
right on.
And I'll say, and if you guys are you guys familiar with Starship Exeter?
Oh yes.
It's, okay. Well, one thing about this film that we have in there, and initially we had intended from the get-go, since we were kind of closing out, to do a nod to them, to salute that, hey, thank you for the inspiration. We were going to have the crew give us the Stan Lee lines, but when we had the ability to get him, we quickly changed all that. So to still show a nod and to still do a salute to the Exeter project, we will have a subtle nod, if you will, where we'll have an Endorian in a red uniform at the communication station.
Awesome.
And he'll be relieved and he'll just walk off. So that'll be the subtle nod that we'll do for them to show our appreciation.
That's
right
so
on.
sweet.
Mm-hmm.
That is so sweet.
I hope they appreciate it. Yeah.
And then again, very subtle, but that's great. Because again, the Exeter team, again, you guys really are some of the pioneers of the unofficial productions, and it's just been such a blast seeing all of your work over the past decade. And I'm so proud of you guys for being able to kind of tie it up in this wonderful little knot with Homecoming, and yet still giving us that hope of like, yeah, it's still going on, the story's still going on. And I'm really thrilled. I think that Farragut Forward is just a natural progression for the show, and for now, is everybody going to stay the same, or are we going to see some changes in your crew, or what?
We're going to see some changes in the crew. Most notably, some people will, of course, have gone on to other different commands and such. Mm-hmm. And Captain Carter will have a much different role, and likely my character will be just more cameos. The last 3 episodes of Farragut, we have made it more of an ensemble cast than the three amigos of Carter, Tackett, and Smithfield. And you'll see a lot more, so it'll have more of the flavor of TNG. So in terms of the characters, we'll be able to film here locally in the Washington, D.C. area, which helps a lot with in terms of leave and other expenses. You don't have to travel. You don't have to craft services. There's a lot of things that are reduced by the ability to film locally. And we've gotten 2 unofficial corporate sponsors, so lumber, paint. I even got some other tools that have been donated, and I get more and more stuff. So in terms of expenses, we don't have to pay for that stuff. We have to find our biggest challenge will be a permanent warehouse or huge car garage or something that we can erect these sets and leave it up on a permanent basis and be able to go and film. But for the pilot, we'll be able to leverage some temporary staging areas. But ultimately, the goal would be to replicate what we did down in Kingsland, where we were able to have more than a 10,000 square foot facility and have all the sets laid out in the configuration. Now, for the movies, they didn't build all those sets.
Right.
But we certainly need to have for the transporter, the bridge set. But also, the beauty of this project, too, is that green screen technology and the ability to create realistic CGI sets and make it look seamless now exists. Yeah. When we first started, we had some, I don't want to say we had some troubles. Part of it was probably because we were still immature and still figuring things out, but now they've gotten things to where, and then even now, I mean, to a certain degree, as we progress, you can kind of tell, well, that's cool and everything, but to be able to have it much more realistic and have it much more seamless, we now have that ability. So some of the sets, we have the helmet navigation console being built in the captain's chair and the railings and such for the movie era bridge. But some of the pie stations along the wall, we can green screen that. And if we build any sets, all we have to do is simply paint it chromatic green and put some tracking dots for CGI. So the sets that we've got a very talented artist named Danny Versaja, if I'm pronouncing his name right, and he has faithfully recreated all these sets down to the detail of a sheet of paper sitting on a desk.
Someone in the chat room, Kevin from the chat room, asked, "Are you going to green screen the lens flares?"
No lens flares.
Yay!
You had mentioned the sets that you have in Kingsland. I believe it
Yes.
was. Every year you hold the Farragut Fest. Is that correct?
We did. There will no longer be any Farragut Fest down there.
Oh,
Yes,
Okay.
we sold our.
that's what I was trying to find out. What are you going to do with your set?
Yes, we sold our sets to the Star Trek Continues group.
Oh,
Oh,
Mhm.
okay. Well, congrats continues.
Thank you. It was to see the
Congrats, Farragut.
centerpiece of the bridge and the transporter room, and that was for some people it was very hard to let go. You know,
Yeah, I
it's more
bet.
than just being sets, but investing more than 6 years in that. But it was time to move on.
I'm just.
We're 10 years. We're 10 years
Yeah.
older. Some of us don't even.
Yeah.
Certainly look dramatically different since then, and a lot of things have happened in the course of a decade, and so. But it is the natural progression. Nothing
I
is
do.
perpetual. Nothing lasts forever.
Right.
it's
And
time
this
to move
is-
Farragut
It's
forward.
time to move on. Yeah.
It is. It's time to move forward, and like you said, it's okay. It's okay to and not the least of which is I have to say it's going to be a nice and rather refreshing take on Star Trek storytelling for to move into that new era, to move into that Wrath of Khan era, so to speak, to take on some new challenges and to take on some stories that frankly haven't been told, because we really only had the Wrath of Khan from that
Right.
era.
Right.
And you talk about a fresh pool of water. What a great!
Mhm.
I'm really looking
and
forward
as
to
you
that.
pointed out, Terry, no one is in this
Ever.
this field, and so the beauty of it is with some of these film groups, it can be very rival and competitive in this. There's no one in this playground, so
Right.
we're not only doing something unprecedented,
Yeah.
but we have a lot of liberties. Now we are working at great effort to recreate some of those quilted chairs from the movie sets and such. But we are adding a few different things. To have if we're to say that the burgundy jacket is a Class A uniform, we've created an Eisenhower type of jacket that's burgundy, and it'll give a little bit more flexibility. Because as you watching the movies,
Yeah.
and if you've been in the military, it's a very formal looking uniform. And if you were to every day, you would have something a little bit more casual, less formal. So the jacket is a kind of a hybrid, one of our own creations, and
How
Micropower
fun.
designed it. So it'll look, when you see it, you'll be like, it looks kind of like the bomber jackets that Scotty and Kirk wore.
That's awesome.
So it'll look like it's still part of the same family, and I think people would like to see stories and adventures in that time period, because like you said, there was only like 6 or 7 films, and they were limited themselves. So
Right.
Mhm.
I think it's great. I think it's going to be just a lot of fun to kind of delve into some new stories, to kind of I'm jealous, to be honest with you. You're doing exactly what people who write fan fiction do, and that is get inspired by a small thread of storyline and then open up that universe for themselves. So I'm really excited for you guys. I think it's going to be a kick. So congratulations again. The good news is that although there's only 41 hours to go for Starship Farragut, there's still less than $400 for you to reach your goal, which I'm pretty confident that you guys will be able to do, and we congratulate you. on
thank
the
you.
impending success.
And I will say that in terms of to give some incentives out there, we added a new perk patch, which is a commemorative souvenir patch of Homecoming. And it has, Terry, has the Frank Lloyd Wright home on it.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
That is cool.
So some of your,
Mike, so
I was going to say some of your perks are kind of cool too. I mean, for $10 you get a coloring and activity book. I mean, that's pretty unique. I have to admit, I have not seen any other unofficial production go something in that direction. So I think that's fantastic.
Because you tend to kind of deal with, you use props and things like that as your perks, so to speak, and I think it's just really fun. Congrats on the good support.
Well, thank you. And Mike just made me think about all the other, we've been talking about TOS and then Rathacon, but we've done the animated episodes in the same filmation style of the 70s.
Yes, you have.
And we even have a comic book. So in addition to the color activity book, we even have our own comic book. So
that's totally cool.
Here's a question.
The only thing we haven't done is Starship Farragut the musical.
Careful.
I mean,
that's kind of.
Sorry.
It really is.
Save it for Farragut Forward.
Yeah, really. So it'll be the dream sequence, Carter's dream sequence. So here's the thing: there are
gets bonked on the head. And...
we do have a lot of listeners on the Eastern Seaboard and even in the D.C., Maryland, Virginia area, and can people volunteer to assist you guys, or do you have your crew pretty well set up?
Well, we still need some people, and volunteers that would be ideal, because of the chairs in the movie, as well as some of the stanchions on the railings are metal. Mm-hmm. We could use someone with welding skills.
This is the word that gets out. If you need.
We need some welders.
We'll help. So if you need you need welding experience, and also
I was going to say go ahead.
No, I was going to say if are there other types of we don't want to use the word corporate sponsor, but corporate assistance that you're looking for. If you're looking for lumber, you're looking for what are the things that you're looking for? Maybe some of our listeners know somebody who would love to be able to assist.
In that regard, people with camera or sophisticated camera lighting equipment on the higher professional scale, and professionals that work doing some of that. In the Washington, D.C. area, there's bound to be some. We haven't tapped that yet, but I've been using the hell out of Craigslist to get all kinds of stuff. So I need to tap that further. But I would also say that with the new jackets that Michael Coward has designed and some of the other things, that we will need some people with some sewing experience to augment what we have. And other people that know how to build sets or can assist with some set construction.
Great.
So there's and video editing. We have a video editor dedicated, but there's always ancillary type, like promotional, viral videos, commercials, little things that need to be edited rather quickly.
Yep.
And so that would be helpful.
Great. Well, we'll do our best to get the word out, and this is part of it. If you guys are listening to this and you're in that DC area and you're looking for a way to assist and help out on a project that you love because it's Star Trek, it's born of Star Trek, get in touch with us at G&T Show at hosts@gntshow.com, and we'll put you in touch with the fine people at Farragut Films. And that's kind of it. And we need to wrap things up here a little bit. I do have a time limit. Sorry, guys. But I did want to say congratulations once again to Farragut Films. I'm so tickled for you guys.
Well, thank you.
This is going to be a wonderful transition period, not just to tie things up for the TOS era, but to move forward into the Rathacon era and to kind of not just get into to see some of the character studies that you're going to be doing with Homecoming, but also to see where we're going to springboard off to and kind of boldly go in that tradition. Congratulations, and I'm looking forward to it.
Well, thank you. And thank you guys for having us. And we'll definitely look forward to seeing you both at the Shore Leave Convention.
Absolutely. We are
Our
so
pleasure.
excited. So excited. For once, we get to go. It's just going to be a blast. Okay, Mike, take us out.
All right. Thank you very much for joining us tonight for a G&T show supplemental log with John Broughton. Join us next time. Thank you, everybody. Kapla!
Right. Thank you, guys.
Take care. Live long and prosper, everyone.
Right.
And just because Nick wasn't able to make it, Jolon effing true.
Music for the GNT show is provided by 5-Year Mission, Enterprise Blues Band, Warp 11, Andrew Allen, and Grethor. The GNT show is a BLB production.
Move ahead, walk back to 10. Put a mini skirt on my yo man. Represent the human race. And we make this a happy place. To fully go where no man's gone before. I think I've sang that line once before, but I'm not too sure. We'll be so happy, can't you see? A 0G.